Hey everybody, Matt Williamson here at Pop Goes the 60s with a follow-up to my last video. I talked a little bit about these new Beatle releases. There's all this talk in the air about a new song and the Red and the Blue albums being remixed, things like that. And some of the comments that people left, I mean, people were kind of all over the map on what they felt should be the next thing released. Everybody's got kind of a priority in mind. And the problem I see with Apple, as far as Apple in the 20th century, the company that controls the Beatles' output, is that have begun to behave like a typical corporation in their ivory tower, far away from the fans, and they don't seem to be that in touch with the fans like they could be. And they've done all right, I suppose, and I'm not complaining too much. It's just that we as fans, I mean, the Beatles belong to us. We don't belong to them. They belong to us. And that's kind of how I think fans feel about them. And we have kind of an idea of what we would like to come out. And when I mentioned the corporation of Apple being in their ivory tower, it seems to me that they should have more feet on the ground talking to people and talking to fans. So what I want to do here with you guys is I want to do a survey and have you guys put what priority you think some of these releases should be. I've got 10 of them. I'll go over them in a moment here. And then there's a box below where you can write in whatever you'd like. It doesn't have to be one thing, it can be multiple things. Of things you think the Beatles should prioritize as to releases. Let me just tell you here what I've got. I got some notes here. Okay, so some of the obvious ones. So Rubber Soul seems to be the one people are most clamoring for. Rubber Soul, Help, Magical Mystery Tour, Beatles for Sale, A Hard Day's Night, Please Please Me, Past Masters, Yellow Submarine. Now those are the albums that have yet to have a anniversary release. Some of the other things I thought would be excellent would be the Star Club shows. That could be, as far as being cleaned up, that's probably the thing on most people's lists. Maybe it's not at the top of the list, but I think that would be something that would make a lot of sense, particularly with the software that is available now where you can start to clean stuff up better. So that's the Star Club shows, which is owned by Apple now. There was a time when that was not owned by Apple. I forget when they got control of that. Okay. So the other thing, we have not got a proper re-release of Let It Be. It's only been released briefly on VHS in the early 80s and on Laserdisc. And I think that's something that should come out. I mean, as gloomy as I guess it was, and I guess after watching the Peter Jackson Get Back film, some of the comments on the original Let It Be film are that it is gloomy, and I think that obviously they were trying to make it be not the Fab Four type of rollicking, the younger Beatles that they left behind, and they overcompensated, I think, badly and made it seem too dark and too dreary. But anyway, that aside, I think that still should get a proper release and a cleaned up release. That is, it's still an amazing stitch in time that we have of the Beatles. Hard Day's Night, that film is actually not owned by Apple. That's got a proper release. Criterion Collection has done a release, maybe 2 different releases of that. That's been really cared for very well. And Help, I'm not sure who owns Help. I should have looked that up. But that's been given a pretty nice box treatment. Now that I think of it, I bought a box Help set a couple years ago, and I just had a bootleg copy that I made myself off of TV. And the box I got, it was super cheap, and it was kind of an elaborate box. And didn't have any music. It was just the movie and some lobby cards, and it was very nicely done. But it seems to me that now that we're used to these fancy packages of these 50th anniversary things that we've been treated to, a Help package might be very cool if you included the film with the music. That could be very special. And I'm not sure, is Apple even thinking like that? I have no idea. Let's see, what else here have we got? How about the Decca audition? When the anthology came out, I think they only had 4 songs from that Decca audition on there, and not even There was one Lennon McCartney original they didn't have on there. I couldn't figure out why they wouldn't include that. But the Decca edition, I think, would be another. It would be like a nice little album that came out. It's basically album length. I think there's about 14 tracks. And that was pre-Ringo. That's Pete Best. And I don't think there'd be any issue paying Pete Best. I mean, who would care? I mean, yeah, Ringo would probably still get a cut because it's under the Beatles' name. But who knows? These guys, you know. By the way, I'm drinking an IPA tonight. All of you who make fun of my light beers that I drink. Yeah, this is Hazy Rabbit, and I don't drink a lot of IPAs. They're after me here. In the summertime, I drink more beer, but when you see me drinking, usually it's a whiskey Coke, or it's kind of a mid-level bourbon with maybe some Diet Coke, sometimes regular Coke, depending how I feel. Let's wait for this to pass here. You hear that, Bogey? Bogey sometimes howls when the sirens go by. All right, okay, where was I? Decca edition, yes. So, only 4 songs, maybe it was 3, but I think it was 4, appeared on the anthology. So I thought that was something that they really skimped on. So let's talk about the anthology. There's talk of remixing the anthology stuff. Now, I personally don't need any of those outtakes remixed, but what about a volume 4 for the anthology? Clearly they had all kinds of different takes. I remember George Martin talking about something like, oh yeah, we got all the stuff worth getting for the anthology. Boy, was he wrong. Boy, did he let us astray. I have no idea how much is left in the can, but there's probably plenty for an anthology 4, which if you did that, you could stick this new Now and Them song on it if that's done, or maybe some other song. I'm not really that excited about those new songs, but let's talk about those for a while. This Now and Them song, which is all being talked about a lot. When the anthology came out, I was excited as everybody else. At that time, which was about 1995, there wasn't a lot of Beatles stuff that had come out in recent years. You know, the CDs had come out. There wasn't a great deal of repackaging or anything really special, as I can recall. And when Free as a Bird came out, I was excited about it. I really liked the song. I like what they did with it. But that song and Real Love, and when this Now and Then comes out, if it does come out, I don't consider these songs as part of the Beatle canon. And I doubt that most people would. I mean, they're nice, but I think they're just kind of an anomaly. And they won't be taken that seriously in the future, I don't think. I mean, they're nice. Oh, what's going on here? Bogey, come here. Come here. Let me wait for that for a moment. Fire truck. Fire, maybe. Bogey, that's enough. That's Bogey howling in the background. That's the first time I've ever seen him do that. I've heard of him doing it, but poor little guy. Where was I? Ah, yes. Anthology. So the anthology is kind of a catch-all. There's all kinds of things you could throw on there. The one thing that people are also talking about not having gotten is Carnival of Light. Now, Carnival of Light is a song. It's not really a song. It's I guess you'd call it kind of a avant-garde exercise. They recorded this, I believe, in January of '67 for some happening that was going on at the Roundhouse. And all 4 Beatles partook in it and just ad-libbed something, essentially. So it wasn't anything thought out, and it wasn't anything near what Revolution 9 was, that was to become a year and a half later. And Mark Lewison has had some interesting things to say about Carnival of Light.
Carnival of Light?
Yes.
You're one of the few people to have heard it.
Yeah.
And I know in the recording sessions you give us a guideline of what it sounds like.
Yes.
And I think there's also the book by Barry Miles.
Yes,
and he
Barry
breaks
Miles
it
is.
down
Yeah,
as well.
Barry Miles heard it before he wrote Many Years From Now.
Yeah. Can you tell us any more?
No, I can't. I wrote the recording sessions book 33 years ago almost. No, all I ever say about it is that the fascination for it will probably evaporate once people hear it. And I'm sure that's true. In the archive at Abbey Road, they do have an awful lot of unheard tapes. But they're not unheard songs. They are mostly alternate versions of songs that we do know. Carnival of Light, which really was recorded under the title Untitled, it wasn't called Carnival of Light at the moment of recording, is nothing more than a near 14-minute jumble of sounds, something like Revolution 9, but actually nowhere near as good as that. It's a collage, in essence. That has not been heard. And the reason it hasn't been heard is because it would take the agreement of all four Beatles, by which I mean Paul, Ringo, Yoko, and Olivia, because they make the decisions these days. They would have to agree unanimously that they wanted it out, and they've never had that unanimity on it. So it remains unissued.
I'm not that excited about Carnival of Light. Like Lewison said, it'll be good for the first listen. Oh, okay. I think they missed an opportunity to put it on Sgt. Pepper. It would have made sense to put it on there. It was recorded during those sessions, and it's a period piece. It was done specifically for a happening, swing in London, and whether one likes it or not, it still has some historical value. And it's a Beatles track. All four Beatles are on it. But, it's one of those things, I think it's time that we get it. Don't you think? I mean, what's the big deal? The hang-up, I guess, is the George Harrison estate. That's the only thing I can think of. It was in the running order of the second anthology version, and it was nixed at the last moment. And I can see why he might nix it, even though I've not heard it yet. But we missed an opportunity during the Sgt. Pepper 50th anniversary box, and I think this would be a perfect opportunity if they did a fourth anthology version, which I think most people just eat up. Now, the other question is, at what point does some of this stuff become public domain? I mean, once you get past 50 years, what the Beatles have done and Apple has done, they'll re-release stuff to reenact a copyright, to continue to hold on to that. But some of this stuff, it seems to me that they're holding on to too much and holding on to it too tightly. Interviews, some of these alternate takes. I fully believe that some of the best things that will be released in the coming years regarding the Beatles will be fan mixes, things that fans do. Fans don't have to make money. They can just do it for the love of it, and doing it the best job that they can because they love the Beatles. I'm doing this survey here on this channel. Shouldn't Apple be doing stuff like that? Shouldn't they have a YouTube channel? Shouldn't they be having live streams and asking you guys your opinion? Hell yeah, they should. But they're holed up in some Crystal Palace, and they will dish stuff out to us as they see fit, apparently. But it's getting to the point where, I think it's past that, really. I mean, they've got most of what they can get out of us. I mean, this stuff has been released how many times? And I just don't see the future as being very lucrative for Apple. As everybody ages out, the Beatles will be less and less relevant. I'll be doing a video on that at some point soon. And I know it sounds sad, but it's really not. It's just the natural cycle of things. So they've got some things to think about. And in the meantime, while you guys are thinking, why don't you fill out the survey? I'll put a link below. And I'd love for you to do it. I'll be back with a video in a couple of weeks after I get enough surveys in, and we'll look at the results. Thanks for playing.